My name is Isabella. I'm 45 years old. I'm just a regular working mom, working as an office clerk at a construction company. I've been married to my husband, Robert, for 20 years. We haven't been blessed with children, but we live a modest life, just the two of us.
Hey, I need this payment settled by the day after tomorrow. Got it. Dad, I mean, boss.
Hey, don't call me boss when no one's looking. My father said that, a bit embarrassed. The construction company where I work is managed by my dad.
Isabella, I always feel bad about this.
What are you talking about? It's no big deal. I've heard that family-run businesses often have bosses who make decisions unilaterally, but my grandfather, the previous owner, was a humble and friendly person. Dad is similar, he never acts arrogant. He's polite and soft-spoken, so he's well regarded by our peers and has a lot of respect. The employees are working hard for the company, so I have to do my part as well.
Is everything okay at home? You're living with your in-laws. They might say something if you're too late.
It's work, so it's fine. Thanks for worrying about me.
Oh right, Mom was worried. Come by our house sometime.
Okay, I will. After such a conversation, I stayed a little late at work and then went home. Our home is a two-family house with my husband's parents. Originally, it was supposed to be just the two of us living there, but various circumstances led to this. Right after we got married, my husband's brother, John, was transferred far away from the in-laws' house. The in-laws, who had been living with the eldest son and his wife, then suggested living with us. I wanted to get used to living as a couple before moving in together, but my husband said,
"If my brother's not here, we're the only ones who can take care of them."
So, I had no choice but to agree. I thought it was unfair to bring up living together after getting married, but my dad made a suggestion.
Why don't you build your own independent two-family house? That way, you can maintain your privacy, and it'll be better than living at their parents' home, right?
Indeed, that made me feel a bit better. We decided to build a two-family house for living with the in-laws, using land owned by my dad. And the old in-laws' house was to be demolished. The land is in Dad's name, and the building is in mine. Though the house should have been in joint ownership with my husband, he said.
You're the one who wanted to build it, right? I can't afford to take on a loan.
So, he stayed completely out of it. Robert's a photographer. His work is irregular and busy, yet his salary isn't that high. Being freelance must be tough for him. And the in-laws thought the same as my husband. So, reluctantly, I ended up taking on all the house-related payments. Before I knew it, 20 years had passed since we started living together. When I got home from work, Robert was already back.
I'm home. You're already here.
Yeah, I am. I'll get dinner ready soon. As I was changing and heading to the kitchen, I heard the sound of someone rushing up the stairs, and my Mil Grace barged into our second-floor entrance. She sat down on the sofa as if she owned the place.
Grace, what's wrong? I just met a friend.
She has 4 grandchildren, you know. I'm so envious.
Why did someone like you have to be my son's wife?
Here we go again. This is typical Grace. She seems to find joy in tormenting and berating me, always looking for a chance to attack me for not having children. I really don't want to end up like this woman. What do you need?
What's with that attitude? Can't you listen to what I'm saying? This is why I can't stand you.
Her shrill voice almost made me want to cover my ears. Then, looking at Robert. Hey, you're only 45, right? Why don't you find a younger wife? She said. How pointless it would be to divorce now.
But how long will you keep such a wife by your side? Dad's always worried about it.
Well, I don't know. Isabella, is dinner ready yet? Robert and Grace are so insensitive. Do they think I'm not hurt by their words? Such a wife, who wouldn't be missed if she were gone. That remark pierced deep into my heart. Then, one holiday, John and his wife barged into our house early in the morning. What's going on?
Nothing in particular. Is he here? We need to talk.
John and his wife, Emily, came in and called for Robert.
I'm going to check the house.
As Emily tried to enter the bedroom.
Please, not so suddenly,
I said. Emily looked irritated, but I felt the same. Long time no see, brother. What's up?
It's not about what's up, actually. What? Your company went bankrupt?
I was shocked to hear that. Emily was a housewife, if I remember correctly. We hadn't seen much of each other since they got married, but I couldn't help but sympathize. That's tough, isn't it?
Got kicked out of the company housing, too. Can't go back to the family home since it's been demolished. So, we thought about what to do and came to talk to Dad and Mom. Indeed, we demolished the in-laws' house because of Isabella's suggestion, didn't we?
Robert looked at me as if to say it was all my fault. And John and his wife glared at me harshly.
A wife shouldn't be so bold. Wait a minute. It wasn't just my decision alone. We all agreed on it after thorough discussion.
I immediately countered. The reason we demolished the in-laws' house back then was because it was so run down, it no longer made sense to keep it. After considering the taxes and maintenance costs, Dad, who knows a lot about real estate, explained that it would be better financially to demolish it and sell the land, and both the in-laws and Robert had agreed. Yet now John was unfairly blaming me.
But still, for a wife to have a say in her husband's family home, isn't that a bit presumptuous?
Really, how brazen can you be? That's my line. I don't want to hear it from a couple who shows up unannounced early on a weekend.
Hey, can't you say something? We discussed this and made the decision together, right?
I looked to Robert for support. But Robert was of no help.
Well, back then, it was like we were swayed by you and your dad,
he said, as if I had dictated everything on my own.
You should think about your position. You're already a nuisance, being childless and all.
Exactly.
A woman only becomes a wife in the true sense once she has children.
With that, John and his wife left our house.
What was that about? That was awful. Calm down. It's all in the past, isn't it? How can you say that? It makes me out to be the bad guy. But isn't that the truth? You were the one in charge back then.
Robert said that and went back to the bedroom. Left alone, I was filled with frustration. Even though we had made the decision together, in my husband's mind, it was all my doing. And he didn't even try to defend me when his own brother was blaming me. My dissatisfaction with Robert kept growing. After that, our conversations gradually decreased. The reason we had managed as a couple for 20 years without major issues was that I always acted as if nothing bothered me. Grace always badmouthed me, and Robert never defended me. On top of that, his attitude was always so insensitive. I couldn't stand it anymore. Could we really continue as a couple like this? These thoughts were crossing my mind. Then, finally, an incident occurred. One day when I returned from work, the house was unusually noisy. As I opened the front door, the in-laws and Robert were frantically moving stuff around.
I'm home. What are you doing?
I asked Robert, but my father-in-law David answered instead.
We're moving your stuff out. You sure have a lot for a woman. Don't you have any restraint?
Why shouldn't a woman have her own possessions? His outdated views on women and their belongings were baffling, but I couldn't dwell on that now.
Wait a minute. What's going on?
The one who answered me was the ever-so-spiteful Grace.
We've decided the eldest son and his family will live here. They've lost their jobs and have kids to care for.
It's heartbreaking.
So, we're offering them this place to live. As parents, we should help our children when they're in trouble. Hurry up and pack your things.
I couldn't comprehend this. And my husband, why was he complying with such an unreasonable demand?
Wait, where are we supposed to go? We can live on the first floor, can't we? What?
This was absurd. The reason we built this two-family house was to minimize our time with the in-laws.
How can you accept such an arbitrary decision? Why are you so detached from everything?
I was infuriated by Robert's apathy towards our marital issues. Then, Grace, who had been listening to our conversation, approached me angrily.
If you have so many complaints, just leave. I never liked you from the start. Always acting like a know-it-all. There's no place for you here anymore. Get out.
David joined in, echoing Grace's sentiments.
Isabella, you're a failure as a wife. A wife should just say yes at all times.
It's because you can't even do that, you're called a failure. I had reached my limit. I regretted allowing these people to live in my home for 20 years. That day, I took only the essentials and immediately sought refuge at my parents' house. I was anxious about leaving my belongings behind, but I just needed to get away from there as soon as possible. My parents were shocked to see me arrive so hastily.
Isabella, what happened? Why are you in such a rush?
Dad, Mom. I can't take it anymore. Seeing my parents, I broke down in tears. They always worried about whether I was living comfortably or going through hardships. I tried to be strong and not worry them, but that day, my emotions exploded and I couldn't stop crying. I told my parents everything that had happened. Usually calm and collected, Dad and Mom's expressions gradually changed as they listened to my story.
I can't believe they treat someone's daughter like this.
Dad said quietly, his eyes narrowed in anger, resembling an immovable deity.
I'm sorry, I never said anything. We built a duplex on Dad's land, but I couldn't bear to tell you about the problems with the in-laws.
Don't worry about it. We've only ever wanted your happiness. Dad reassured me, and I teared up again.
They think they can do whatever they want after kicking Isabella out?
Unacceptable.
Maybe we should teach them a lesson, Dad. Let's do it. Isabella, we're going to their house this weekend. Stay here until then.
So, I spent the week at my parents' house before returning with them to confront the in-laws. When we arrived the following week, Robert, his brother and wife, and the in-laws were still busy moving things.
Look at this vanity, it's lovely. I'm going to use it. Oh, that's Isabella's favorite. Go ahead and use it.
Robert casually agreed to Emily's request. How could they be so callous with other people's belongings?
And Isabella, making us deal with all this stuff while you're off doing who knows what, Emily sneered.
So, I made a dramatic entrance.
Who asked you to clean up?
Everyone, including Emily, froze at my sudden appearance. John's children were innocently playing in the background. Not wanting to involve them, I asked Emily to take them downstairs. Once we were seated, the in-laws started.
Doesn't Isabella have any common sense? Making the in-laws sort her belongings.
Really?
Because of you, our move is delayed.
What are you thinking? That's my line. And then John and his wife chimed in.
Isabella, aren't you being a bit selfish?
Yeah.
We're not free to deal with this mess you've left us.
The audacity of people trying to move into my house. No need to let them have their say anymore. Dad spoke up calmly.
So, you're trying to evict my daughter, the legal owner of this house, to make room for your own family? Maybe you should reconsider whether that's legally permissible.
Eh? Owner? What do you mean? John and his wife looked puzzled, turning to the in-laws and Robert. But they just stood there, dumbfounded, not understanding what was being said.
Don't you understand? I am the owner of this house, and Dad owns the land. How do you think you can do whatever you want without the owner's consent? But I'm your husband. I have rights, don't I?
Robert leaned forward, but I dismissed him outright.
There's no way you have any rights. You haven't paid a cent towards the loan or taxes. You're just living in a house under my name, that's all. I should have at least changed the deed for the first floor where the in-laws live. Then they could have kept their residence. But everyone pushed the financial complexities onto me.
I informed the in-laws of this. Meaning, the in-laws had no rights to the house either. Let me make it clear, every expense for this house comes from my pocket. So, I don't need to spell out what that means, right? Everything about this house is for me to decide. That's the way it is.
That can't be. The wife's property belongs to the husband, and by extension, to his parents.
Grace argued.
That's right. It was always the wife's duty to give everything to her husband.
David added.
What era are you living in? Maybe it's time for an update in your thinking.
I retorted. Everyone was stunned by my words, clearly not expecting such a response. Dad then delivered the final blow.
I can't stand you unreasonable people trespassing on my land any longer. Leave right now. Wait, you can't just decide that.
Robert protested, but Dad was unmoving.
Unreasonable? You've been horrible to my daughter and didn't even try to protect her. I'm disappointed in you. I gave you this land for the house, thinking you would make her happy. Clearly, you're not fit to be a husband.
I agreed with Dad's words.
Can you sign this?
Robert, sweating, looked at me and the paper in front of him. While this was happening, the in-laws and John's family hastily tried to leave, but Dad stopped John.
You. What do you want?
John asked, looking displeased.
I can't employ someone like you in my company. I'm calling off your job application.
John looked confused, so Dad explained.
I'm the president of the construction company you applied to.
Didn't you realize? Dad's company is fairly sizable locally and pays well. John must have applied without knowing it was my family's business. Realizing the implications, John approached Dad in a panic.
What do you mean? I don't like disrespectful people. You wouldn't want to be employed by someone you despise, right? I suggest looking elsewhere. Please, at least let me interview. I'm busy, sorry.
With that, Dad dismissed John. Afterward, my husband and I officially divorced. I had no obligation to let strangers live in my house, so I asked everyone to leave. They complained about not having a place to live. If you pay rent, you can stay.
That's my final act of kindness.
I offered. This is the last act of kindness.
$1,500 a month? That's cheap for this area. How about it?
At this, Robert protested.
I can't afford that on my salary. Dad and Mom live on pensions, and my brother is unemployed. You know our situation, right?
Yeah, I know. If you can't pay, you have no choice but to leave. It's a shame, isn't it? Isabella, please. Come back to being the kind Isabella you used to be. That's impossible.
I've learned the hard way during our 20 years of marriage how pointless it is to show mercy to your family. Don't rely on me anymore.
After I kicked them out, I decided to rent the house through a real estate agent my father knows. I heard my ex-husband and the in-laws are somehow managing to live in an apartment. I wonder if they can really adjust their financial habits and survive. I doubt it, but as for John, he's struggling to find a job. Apparently, he applied to dozens of companies, and the only one that accepted his application was my father's company. That's why he was so desperate back then. Given his age, finding a new job must be really tough. As for me, I moved back to my parents' house and got involved in the management of the company. At 45, I've started a new life, feeling a bit lost, but living each day with determination.
Dad, thanks for everything. Isabella, it was tough for you. Well done for now. Marriage is hard, isn't it? You and Mom managed to stay together and get along well.
That's amazing. Don't be silly, we fight plenty too. Then why are you so close? At my question, Dad replied a bit sheepishly.
Maybe because we have mutual respect and care for each other. You're still young. You'll find a life partner again someday.
Really?
Of course. You're our daughter.
I believe you'll be happy. Dad's words of encouragement deeply resonated with me.
You, a low-educated commoner, are not needed in our family.
Victoria and Stella, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, glared at me as they said this. If that's their attitude, I have my own plans. Just you wait and see. My name is Christina, 35 years old. I've always been shy about love due to my focus on work, but a year ago, I met Hilton through a friend and started dating him. Just last month, he proposed. I had long given up on the idea of a normal happiness like marriage, but Hilton, my age, was so understanding. He never complained about my work-centric life and always watched over me kindly, so I accepted his proposal without hesitation. We're planning to have the wedding in 6 months, and I'm currently in the midst of dieting. Usually glued to my computer from morning to night, I wasn't overweight, but I was out of shape due to a lack of exercise. I was working hard to tone up. The reason was simple, for the wedding. Even though I've been a career woman until now, I'm still a woman. I wanted to wear my wedding dress, likely a once-in-a-lifetime event, in the best shape of my life. Though it felt a bit extravagant, I hired a personal trainer and started going to the gym every morning before work. Despite being busy with work, Hilton and I were making wedding preparations together and everything was going smoothly. Last week, I introduced Hilton to my parents, and next weekend, Hilton was planning to introduce me to his parents. But unexpectedly, I ran into Victoria the other day. I was shopping for a dress at Macy's in New York to wear to a family meeting with Hilton's side. I usually decide on my clothes alone, but since I was meeting my in-laws, I thought I'd include Hilton's opinion and went shopping together. Then, "Oh, Hilton?" I turned around when someone suddenly called out and saw an elegantly dressed elderly woman standing there. "It is you, Hilton."
Huh? Mom? What are you doing here?
"Just shopping, as usual."
Oh?
"And who is this young lady?" I'm Christina. I'm in a good relationship with Hilton." "Nice to meet you." "Oh my, you must be his girlfriend." "Nice to meet you too." "I'm Hilton's mother, Victoria." I was surprised by the sudden encounter, but Victoria was a very kind and elegant lady. No wonder, since Hilton comes from a long line of doctors and his family is quite renowned locally. Hilton is also a doctor, though still practicing.
Oh dear, this is a problem.
What's the problem?
Well, the thing is, we've decided to get married. What? Really? You should have said that sooner. I told you I was going back home next week, right? I planned to take Christina with me for a family meeting. We already had one with Christina's family.
Victoria, understandably, was taken aback, but then she smiled warmly. That's wonderful news. That's what he said. Unexpectedly, I felt reassured by Victoria's friendly and bright demeanor. But that was short-lived. Soon after, I would come to see her true nature. Despite it being our first meeting, Victoria wanted to exchange contact information with me. Looking uncertainly at Hilton, he said.
Well, we'd exchange it eventually. It's fate, I suppose.
He said that, so?
Sorry for the odd order, but…
With that, I exchanged phone numbers with Victoria. I bought the dress I wanted, and then parted ways with Hilton, each of us heading home. Then, as if timed perfectly, my mobile phone rang. To my surprise, it was Victoria.
Christina?
Victoria, thank you so much for today.
We bumped into each other, quite a surprise. Thanks for giving me your contact on such short notice.
No, thank you.
You know, about coming to my house next week?
Yes, looking forward to it.
Well, about that, I have something I want to talk about. Can we meet before then?
Eh? With Hilton?
No, just the two of us.
I was quite surprised by the sudden request, but I couldn't refuse due to our relationship. We agreed to meet during a weekday, and then ended the call. I felt uneasy, almost creepy, and unpleasant. A few days later, I went to the cafe where we were meeting, and Victoria was already there, waiting.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Nowadays, it's common courtesy not to keep your elders waiting. I'm sorry.
An unexpected jab. My unease only grew.
Anyway, I was really surprised the other day. I'm sorry for the surprise. The family meeting ran late. Well, normally, I'd attend a family meeting first if I were marrying into a family.
That was more than a jab. With a clearly malicious tone, Victoria continued.
Is it the other way around these days? Recently, my friends are lamenting that their sons and DILs got taken by their in-laws. I'm so sorry.
Well, it's okay.
By the way, do you always shop in that area? Oh, no, I rarely go downtown.
Right, you stood out.
I thought, what's this country-looking girl doing here? Then I saw Hilton and was shocked. Did I stand out?
What a rude person. I regretted thinking even for a moment that Victoria was a nice person.
Eh? You're not aware? Look, if you want to be my DIL, you should be more conscious of those around you. Yes, I see.
Honestly, it was like picking a fight. I wasn't fashionably dressed like a model, but I wasn't out of place for New York's Macy's. It seemed like she just wanted to complain. But arguing back wouldn't help. I just said,
I'll try harder.
I just answered. Then,
what kind of family are you from? My family? What do you mean by family?
Family is in family. What do your parents do?
Oh, Dad works a regular office job, and Mom's a homemaker.
Oh my, what a surprise. Just ordinary people.
Yes, we're ordinary, as you say.
I felt insulted about my parents and answered with a hint of anger. Victoria kept questioning. What about your education? Where did you go to college?
Oh, I didn't go to college, I went to a makeup school.
After I said that, Victoria sighed deeply.
You come from an unremarkable family and have no educational background.
So, are you after Hilton for his money? Such a blatantly rude question. I was stunned and asked.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, did you approach Hilton for our family's wealth? Every girl that comes around him is like that. Aren't you the same?
No, I don't know about the past, but I was attracted to Hilton's personality.
I wonder about that.
I hope to properly discuss this at the family meeting next week.
Okay. Not sure if you'll be accepted, though. When we met downtown, Victoria was smiling, maybe because Hilton was there. But once we were alone, she changed completely. I was dumbfounded by her attitude. The conversation continued with her looking down on me, and then we parted ways for the day. I never expected to be looked down on to this extent. On my way home, I was deeply troubled about how to build a relationship with Victoria. The next day, I received a call from an unknown number.
Hello? Is this Christina? Yes, it is. It's Stella. Stella. Which Stella are you?
What? I'm Hilton's sister. You're dating him, right? Trying to become his wife and you don't even know his family's names?
Oh, my apologies.
Hilton's sister?
Sorry, I knew he had a sister, but I didn't know your name.
I was completely taken aback by Stella's abrupt call. Got your number from Mom. Just as she said, an unsuitable woman for our family has arrived. Mom said so too. A country-looking, low-class girl trying to marry Hilton, it's causing a stir in the family.
I see.
If the mother was like that, so was the daughter. I was utterly shocked by their mean attitudes, so different from the kind Hilton.
I see?
Are you mocking me? If you want to marry Hilton, you better not go against me. You're coming to our family home next weekend, right? I'll be there to properly evaluate you.
Evaluate?
Yes, evaluate. You don't understand because you don't have an education? We, Mom and I, assess all the girlfriends Hilton brings. By the way, no one has passed yet. Failures don't even enter our house and go straight back home. Be prepared for that. Now I understood why Hilton rarely talked about his family. Given their attitude, he probably wanted to establish facts at my home first, then forcefully push through at his own home. He likely didn't tell me to avoid making me anxious. Also, bring a proper gift. I'll send you a message later about what to bring. It'll be around $300, not much.
If I may say, I'll discuss the gift with Hilton.
A $300 gift requirement was unheard of. Do you understand your position? You're asking to marry Hilton, and you're not trying to please us? Don't you understand that without a college education? You're supposedly working, but probably just a receptionist or something trivial, right? Without learning the norms of being a working adult, you don't understand. Remember your place, you're the one asking to be our DIL. Are you really even working properly? I couldn't let this go. I responded angrily. To return your words, I have been working properly since graduating from school. If that's the case, it's even more unbelievable. I worked at a major consulting firm until recently, but you wouldn't be of any use there. I tried to change the subject. Speaking of which, I heard from Hilton. You're changing jobs, right? Getting hired immediately as a mid-career professional, you must be talented. I flattered this arrogant woman, and as expected, she took the bait. Of course. And it's at a trendy IT company, too. The one with the makeup app and the slogan, "You can be anything." You've heard of it, right? I was intrigued, but I kept listening silently. I'll be in a programmer position. When you're at my level, you get hired instantly, even without programming experience. Wow, that's impressive. So, it's okay to be inexperienced? Well, they do prefer experienced people,
but it's all about how you present yourself. Being a programmer is something you can do even without a college degree. I'd master it right after joining. But, weren't you asked for a portfolio or something? You're incredibly serious, aren't you? I just paid a friend in science to make one for me. See? That's the smart way to do it. Well, I definitely don't have the nerve to lie in an interview like that. It's not a lie if you can do it later. That's what hiring is all about.
After saying that, as if realizing she had spoken too much.
Enough with the flattery, just make sure to bring a proper gift,
she said and abruptly hung up. I was shocked by Stella's character, just like with Victoria. I couldn't keep quiet about this and told Hilton as soon as I got the gift request message from Stella.
Seriously? They said that? Sorry for not telling you. I didn't want to make you anxious.
I get it. Thanks. But what should we do?
I'll handle the gift thing. Also, if Mom or Stella calls again, just ignore them.
Hilton's words were very reassuring. He then immediately contacted Stella, rejecting the gift requirement. I braced for more communication from them, but nothing happened until the day of the family meeting arrived. Despite my nervousness, I optimistically hoped that Victoria and Stella wouldn't really refuse to let me in their house after their harsh words. But life isn't that sweet. At the entrance, Victoria and Stella were waiting like grizzly bears, complaining about the gift and refusing to let me in. Worse yet, Stella spilled coffee on my dress and even sprinkled salt on it. Even the typically calm Hilton was furious.
That's enough, Christina, let's go,
he said. But I couldn't stay silent after being treated like this.
Hilton, sorry. I need to talk to Victoria and Stella. It might be awkward for you, so could you wait in the car for a bit?
Surprised by my determination, Hilton trusted me.
Okay,
he said and stepped back. I turned to face the two women and asked firmly,
why do I deserve such treatment?
Your presence is not suitable for our family.
Can you please stay away from Hilton from now on? What specifically makes me unsuitable?
Fine, I'll tell you. What's with that dress?
It's just some cheap thing from around the corner, right? No, it was tailor-made at a store I frequently visit. It's probably nothing special. So, if it's not a fancy dress, it's okay to spill coffee on it?
Yes, of course.
Such a cheap thing, it's good you have a reason to throw it away. If you're going to demand compensation, that's fine.
I'll pay for it.
Is that so? Anything else?
Anything else? You ignored the gift, didn't you?
That matter should have been settled by Hilton.
That's a discussion for our family.
If you so badly want to be part of our family, that's a different matter, isn't it?
I was fed up. In the end, there was no real reason. They simply didn't like me. You see, complaining like that is the problem.
As a DIL, you should quietly listen to what your husband's family says. I see, so you always treat people this way?
Of course.
I teach Stella the same. Now she's a daughter I'm not ashamed to show anywhere. Not like you, a low-educated commoner. We don't need you in our family. That's the unanimous decision. I see, got it.
Saying this, I took a deep breath. Time to fight back.
Well, in that case, I cannot accept this.
Huh?
We don't need your acceptance.
Smiling at Stella, I said.
Stella, in that case, your job offer is revoked.
What? That's hilarious. What offer are you revoking?
Your job offer. The one you said was secured at the company you were joining.
Huh? Why do you have anything to do with it? Stella's face twitched.
It's my company. I decide, right?
What? What are you talking about?
I intended to explain my job during the family meeting today, but unfortunately, there was no opportunity.
The two were dumbstruck. They still hadn't grasped the situation. I continued to explain.
The company where Stella got her job offer is the one I run. I developed an app while attending a makeup school, and it was a hit, so I started my own company. You keep calling me a commoner, but to be honest, I earn more than 5 times Hilton's income.
That's impossible.
Normally, I leave hiring decisions to HR, but this time I'll have a say. I have personal feelings due to this treatment. However, the main issue is Stella's false statements during her interview. Sadly, if a job offer is obtained through falsehoods, the company has the right to revoke it.
Wait, just wait. You passed, you passed. Don't say that, or Stella will end up unemployed. Victoria was panicking, while Stella was in a state of shock.
Unfortunately, we were looking for an experienced mid-career professional, not a beginner. We weren't recruiting inexperienced people. Moreover, our company's slogan is "You can be anything," a very positive message. We don't need people who demean others or judge their worth.
Please don't say that. Let's talk.
No, Victoria. Just now, you said you wanted nothing more to do with me, so Hilton and I will never pass through this house's gate again.
This hit them harder. No! Not Hilton too!
This was decided beforehand with Hilton. I'm sorry, but Hilton will have a separate family meeting with his father, so whether he keeps in touch with you too is your family's matter. I won't interfere, but I won't contact you again.
Victoria slumped at this. Here's the final blow from me.
Also, about compensating for the stained dress you mentioned earlier. It costs $7,000, so I'll be sending you the bill later.
Victoria's eyes widened in shock.
Victoria, I don't usually shop at such places. I mostly go to exclusive VIP lounges. Take care.
Saying this, I confidently turned my back on them and started walking. Hilton was waiting outside the car.
Tough day, thanks. I might have gone too far, but thanks for understanding.
It's okay. Let's go eat something delicious. 6 months later, we had our wedding as planned. Only our dearest friends, who we truly wanted there, attended. Of course, Victoria and Stella weren't there. Fael, looking a bit uneasy, was the only one from their family celebrating with us. Apparently, Fael had been fed up with Victoria and Stella's selfishness for a while, and this incident was the last straw. He started discussing divorce. Meanwhile, Stella, whose job offer was revoked, couldn't find employment and ended up working part-time at a convenience store, the very kind of place she used to scorn. We plan to teach our children when we have them. You can be anything. But only if you don't speak ill of others and work hard. There will always be people who act superior because of their family or status, but I'm sure our child will be just fine. That's what I thought, surrounded by friends' smiling faces under a clear sky at our wedding.